Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf has resigned as leader of the Scottish National Party (SNP). He had ordered a contest to be held in order to select a replacement. In a press conference in Edinburgh, Humza said that repairing relationship across the political divide can only be done with someone else at the helm. He added that he would continue as First Minister until a successor has been elected. Humza quit as head of the pro-independence SNP after a week of chaos, triggered by his scrapping of a coalition agreement with Scotland's Greens. He then failed to secure enough support to survive votes of no confidence against him, expected later this week. Resigning little over a year after he replaced Nicola Sturgeon as First Minister and SNP leader, Humza said it was time for someone else to lead Scotland's devolved government.
And that the SNP would seek to govern as
A two-state solution remains the only viable path out of the current conflict in Gaza, according to leaders of the Arab world. Speaking at the World Economic Forum's special meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, says there must be real commitment to recognizing a future independent Palestinian state.
We can't just think about Gaza. We need to think of the situation in its whole context. We have now a population in Gaza, but also in the rest of Palestine, that has been traumatized, that has seen a tremendous suffering and conflict. And in order for us to be able to talk about a sustainable pathway to stability, to security, including for Israel, we're going to have to talk about a Palestinian situation where the Palestinians have hope. And the only way that hope is legitimate is through self-determination, through a credible pathway to a Palestinian state.
Meanwhile, Jordan's Deputy Prime Minister Ayman al-Safadi called for the international community to push for an endgame solution to the conflict.
If we want to ensure a future of peace for the region, we have to make that big move out of the space of radicalism and violence, create our own space of peace, and work in accordance with a plan. And you will find all of us in the region ready to do the heavy lifting. But we need the world to face what will the world do if Netanyahu continues to block that prospect for peace. What will we do if Netanyahu continues to take us towards the region, towards regional war? And will he face consequences? And I just want to close with one sentence, if I may. Netanyahu says he wants to achieve complete victory for Israel. Reality is, strategically, he achieved nothing but complete defeat for Israel. Because if you look at what's happening in the world, look where Israel's standing is, look where all of us are, he is losing and he is making Israel a pariah. And how is that good for the future of the Israelis and the Palestinians and the whole region?
Meanwhile, Israeli officials are increasingly concerned that the International Criminal Court (ICC) may issue arrest warrants against the country's leaders as global pressure mounts over its war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. According to the New York Times and Washington Post, Israeli and foreign officials also believe the court is considering arrest warrants for Hamas leaders. According to the reports, the ICC investigation covers allegations going back to the 2014 war in Gaza, as well as Israel's construction of illegal settlements in the occupied territory. Meanwhile, a series of Israeli announcements in recent days about allowing more humanitarian aid into Gaza appear to be aimed in part at heading off possible ICC action. The International Court of Justice, a separate body, is also investigating whether Israel has committed acts of genocide in the ongoing war in Gaza, with a decision expected to take years. Neither Israel nor its close ally, the United States, accept the ICC's jurisdiction, but any arrest warrants could expose Israeli officials to arrests in other countries. They would also serve as a major rebuke of Israel's actions at a time when pro-Palestinian protests have spread to college campuses across the U.S. In other news, the Philippines has cancelled physical classes in public schools for the next 2 days as the country grapples with a heat wave. Temperatures in the capital region are forecast to reach 37 degrees Celsius this week, but the state weather agency says the heat index is expected to remain at a record 45 degrees Celsius. The heat index is the actual temperature felt by the body, taking into account relative humidity. At 45 degrees Celsius, it is within the range classified as dangerous, as conditions can cause heat stroke with prolonged exposure. The heat index is expected to remain at record highs until the second week of May. Several private schools and universities not covered by the Education Ministry mandate have also shifted to online classes. More than 3.6 million public school students were already affected from similar suspensions of schooling last week. Warmer temperatures have strained power supplies on the main island of Luzon, which accounts for 3/4 of economic output. The country's grid operator also warned that reserves were dwindling after 13 power plants shut down earlier this month. At least 4 people were killed after a series of tornadoes struck the central U.S. The deaths occurred in Oklahoma, where a state of emergency has been declared in a dozen counties. Hospitals across the state reported around 100 injuries, while tens of thousands of residents were still without power on Sunday evening. Extensive damage was reported in the town of Sulphur, home to about 5,000 people, where roofs were ripped off houses and vehicles thrown into the air. The National Weather Service reported that 38 tornadoes had hit the area, with the worst of the storms moving through central Oklahoma on Sunday into early Sunday morning. They had also spread into northwest Texas, western Missouri and Kansas. Some of the tornadoes over the weekend had wind gusts in excess of 218 kilometers per hour. We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. Malaysia is still lagging behind compared to other countries in dealing with the issues of abuse and social problems involving children, says Dato' Sri Azalina Uthman Said. The Law and Institutional Reform Minister says it is important to emphasize the role of the Office of Children's Commissioner in bringing reforms in legislation and strengthening the voice of children in the decision-making process.
Apart from the appointment of 3 full-time children commissioners, the amendment empowers the OCC to receive and act upon complaints and concerns from children, while also tasking it with establishing mechanism to promote children's participation in matters affecting them. This historic milestone reaffirms Malaysia's commitment to children's rights and their meaningful engagement in shaping their future. However, our journey has just begun and we find ourselves lagging behind compared to other countries that has offices of the Children's Commission worldwide. As we are gathered here today, we have the unique opportunity to learn from each other's experiences, share best practices, and explore innovative approaches to empower children's commissions globally.
She was speaking at the launch of the International Symposium on the Empowerment of Children's Commission earlier today. Azalina also said that the government is studying the necessity of establishing OCCs at the state level to ensure more comprehensive monitoring. Meanwhile, Azalina said the Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017 would also be reviewed for possible amendments to address challenges posed by today's technology, noting that artificial intelligence has increasingly been used for criminal purposes such as grooming.
Meanwhile, the government is working to address the issue of overcrowding at 86 schools nationwide. Education Minister Farhana Sheikh says these will include adding temporary classrooms and expanding existing schools.
Fadlina said her ministry was looking to transfer a number of students to other schools within the surrounding area. There are also plans to build new schools to permanently solve the issue. According to the ministry, Selangor has the most overcrowded schools in Malaysia. Among them are SMK Meru in Klang and SMK Bukit Kapar in Kapar.
Putrajaya aims to promote the installation and use of solar energy systems in public hospitals as part of the National Energy Transition Roadmap. Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Fadila Yousaf says this will involve collaboration with the Health Ministry and the private sector.
Fadila, who is also Energy Transition and Water Transformation Minister, said the government planned to work with the private sector as a service provider to handle the installation process of solar panels. The government also plans to use other renewable energy sources such as biomass, biogas and hydropower. Fadila also said 88% of the 1,100 megawatt quota of the net energy metering program for rooftop solar installation has been successfully allocated. This includes both commercial and industrial users.
That wraps our AWANI tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.